My brother stole my girlfriend and my business idea that I told him about in confidence and launched it without me. He didn't even change the name. He failed in 6 months because he had no clue what he was doing. I launched the same concept properly and it actually worked. Now my ex and brother are begging me for a second chance. So my brother stole my girlfriend and the business idea I trusted him with, launched it without me using my exact name and plans, crashed it in 6 months because he's basically incompetent, and now both of them are showing up at my door acting like we can just hit reset. Yeah, no. Buckle up because this story is a masterclass in how not to betray family. I'm Jake, 28 years old, and I've spent the last decade working in the hospitality industry. Started as a front desk clerk at a boutique hotel right after college, worked my way up to assistant manager, then finally landed a position as operations manager at a mid-sized resort about 3 years ago. The pay's decent, the hours are brutal, but I learned every single aspect of running a guest experience from the ground up. My younger brother Cameron is 25. He's always been the family charmer. Good-looking, smooth talker, the kind of guy who could sell ice to someone living at the North Pole. He went to college for business administration, graduated with okay grades, and then bounced around from job to job for the next couple years. Nothing stuck. He'd get bored, quit, complain about bad management, rinse and repeat. Our parents always made excuses for him. He was finding himself, or too creative for corporate structure. I called it what it was. He didn't want to do actual work. Then there's Alexis. We met 4 years ago at a charity fundraiser my resort was hosting. She was volunteering, I was coordinating the event, and we hit it off immediately. She's beautiful, funny, ambitious, works as a dental hygienist, owns her own condo, has her life together. We dated for 3.5 years, and honestly, I thought she was it. I was planning to propose, had the ring picked out, deposit paid, whole 9 yards, just waiting for the right moment. Cameron and Alexis met about 2 years into our relationship at a family barbecue. They got along fine. Nothing weird, nothing that set off alarm bells. She thought he was funny. He thought she was cool. Normal family dynamics. I actually liked that they were friendly because it made family gatherings easier. Jokes on me for thinking like a normal person who trusts the people closest to him. About 8 months ago, I had this idea. I'd been in hospitality long enough to notice a massive gap in the market. Short-term rental management services existed, sure, but none of them really catered to what I call the overwhelmed owner segment. You know, people who bought investment properties or inherited vacation homes but had no clue how to manage them as rentals. They didn't want to deal with Airbnb, but hiring a traditional property management company was expensive and impersonal. My concept was simple but specific. A boutique property management service that focused exclusively on residential vacation rentals in our region. We'd handle everything from professional photography and listing optimization to guest communication, cleaning coordination, and maintenance. But here's the kicker. We'd offer tiered packages so owners could choose exactly how much involvement they wanted. Some people just needed listing help. Others wanted full white glove service. Nobody else was doing it this way. I'd been developing this idea for months. Made spreadsheets, researched competitors, mapped out pricing structures, created mock-ups of how the service would work. I even had a name picked out, Keystone Vacation Management. The whole concept was my baby. I'd stay up late after work refining the business plan, calculating startup costs, figuring out the tech stack we'd need. The only problem? I needed help. Running a resort full-time didn't leave me much bandwidth to launch a side business alone. I needed a partner. Someone I could trust who had some business sense and could handle the administrative side while I used my industry connections to build the client base. So naturally, I thought of my brother. I know, I'm an idiot, but hear me out. At the time, it made sense. Cameron had a business degree he wasn't using. He'd been complaining about wanting to be his own boss. We were family. I thought giving him this opportunity would be good for him, good for us, and good for our relationship. I imagined us building something together, you know? Brothers running a successful company. One Saturday afternoon in March, Cameron came over to my place. Alexis was visiting her parents for the weekend, so it was just us. We ordered food, I cracked open my laptop, and I showed him everything. And I mean everything. The full business plan, financial projections, target market analysis, the whole 9 yards. I walked him through exactly how Keystone would work, what made it different, why I thought it would succeed. Cameron's eyes lit up as I explained it. He asked all the right questions, took notes on his phone, seemed genuinely excited. We talked for hours about how we'd structure the partnership, split responsibilities and profits, what our first-year timeline would look like. By the end of the night, we shook hands. He was in. We agreed to officially start planning the launch in May, after I finished coordinating a huge corporate retreat at the resort. Before he left, he looked at me and said something that stuck with me. He said, "Thank you for trusting me with this. I won't let you down. I actually got a little emotional. Here we were, two brothers about to build something together. It felt right. The next few weeks, Cameron and I texted constantly about Keystone. He'd send me ideas for marketing angles. I'd share contacts I thought we could pitch to. Alexis knew about it too. I'd told her the same night I pitched Cameron. She thought it was a great idea and was excited for both of us. Everything felt like it was coming together. Then things got weird. In late April, Cameron started being less responsive. Our texts went from daily conversations to him taking days to reply. When I'd ask about the business planning, he'd give vague answers like working on some stuff or thinking through logistics. I figured he was busy, or maybe getting cold feet about the commitment. Starting a business is scary. I gave him space. Around the same time, Alexis started acting different too. Nothing major at first, just small things. She was on her phone more than usual, started picking up extra shifts at work. We'd make plans and she'd cancel last minute because something came up. When we did hang out, she seemed distracted, like her mind was somewhere else. I should have connected the dots. Looking back, all the signs were there. But I trusted them, both of them. So instead of being suspicious, I just figured everyone was going through their own thing. Cameron was probably stressing about the business. Alexis was probably just busy with work. I was the problem, right? Too focused on my own life to notice what was happening right in front of my face. Memorial Day weekend changed everything. Alexis was supposed to come to a family cookout at my parents' house. She texted me that morning saying she felt sick and needed to rest. I was disappointed but told her to feel better and I'd check in later. Went to my parents' place, helped my dad grill, hung out with relatives. Standard family gathering. Cameron didn't show up either. He texted the family group chat saying he had business meetings and couldn't make it. On Memorial Day. On a holiday. My mom bought it. My dad thought it was entrepreneurial of him. I thought it was weird, but whatever. I left my parents' house around 6 p.m. and decided to surprise Alexis with soup from her favorite deli. I'd texted her a couple times during the day, and she'd responded saying she was still feeling rough, just resting. I figured showing up with food would be a nice gesture. Her condo is about 15 minutes from my parents' place. I stopped at the deli, grabbed the soup and some bread, then headed over. Let myself in with my key. The lights were off. I called out her name. No response. Figured she was sleeping. I walked toward her bedroom to check on her. The door was cracked open. I pushed it open wider, and there they were. Cameron and Alexis. In her bed, clothes on the floor, completely naked. They didn't even notice me at first because they were too busy with each other. I just stood there like an absolute moron holding a bag of soup, my brain trying to process what my eyes were seeing. Alexis saw me first. She screamed, grabbed a sheet. Cameron turned around, and the look on his face wasn't even apologetic. It was more like, annoyed? Like I'd interrupted something important, and how dare I use my own key to check on my supposedly sick girlfriend. I didn't yell, didn't throw things, didn't make a scene. I just stood there for what felt like an hour but was probably 10 seconds, set the soup on her dresser and said, "Keep it. You both clearly need the energy." Then I walked out, got in my car, drove home, sat on my couch staring at the wall for the rest of the night. My phone blew up with texts and calls from both of them. I didn't answer, didn't read them, just sat there in complete silence. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls and God knows how many texts. I finally read through them. Alexis's messages were the standard cheater's greatest hits. It just happened. I didn't mean for this. Please let me explain. It's not what it looked like. Yeah, because two naked people in bed together could be interpreted so many different ways. Cameron's texts were somehow worse. No real apology. Mostly just him saying we needed to talk like adults and that things got complicated. Complicated. That's what he called deliberately sleeping with his brother's girlfriend. Complicated. I responded to Alexis first. "We're done. Don't contact me again." Blocked her immediately. To Cameron, I sent, "You're dead to me." Blocked him too. Then I went to work. Because what else was I supposed to do? Sit at home and think about how the two people I trusted most in the world betrayed me? No thanks. I buried myself in my job. Worked longer hours. Picked up extra shifts. Became the guy who was always at the resort. Always available. Always working. It was either that or fall apart. And I wasn't about to fall apart over people who clearly didn't value me. My parents called, tried to mediate. My mom especially kept pushing for me to hear them out and work through this as a family. I told her I had nothing to say to Cameron and nothing to work through. My dad was more understanding but still tried the whole "he's your brother" guilt trip. Didn't work. I showed up to family stuff only when absolutely necessary and left early. If Cameron was there, I didn't acknowledge his existence. June passed in a blur of room inspections, staff meetings, and guest complaints about housekeeping schedules. July came with its usual surge of summer tourism. I'd thrown myself so deep into work that I'd almost forgotten about the business idea entirely. My days started at 6 a.m. and didn't end until well past dinner. The resort became my entire world. Home was just where I slept for 5 hours before doing it all over again. Then one day, in mid-July, a former colleague from another resort sent me a screenshot. It was a Facebook ad for a new company called, wait for it, Keystone Vacation Management. My Keystone. My exact name. My concept. My everything. I stared at my phone screen for what felt like an eternity. The ad copy used phrases I'd written in my business plan, word for word, not paraphrased, not reimagined, just stolen. The service packages were structured exactly how I designed them. The 3-tier system with bronze, silver, and gold options. The target market was identical to my research. Property owners within 50 miles of the Lake District who needed professional management but wanted personalized service. The logo was different, at least. Cameron had apparently hired someone on Fiverr to slap together a generic key icon with mountains in the background. Real original. But everything else? That was mine. The tagline was my tagline. The value proposition was my value proposition. Even the FAQ section on their landing page answered questions in the exact same order I'd outlined in my planning document. And who was listed as the founder? Cameron Wright. Just Cameron. No mention of partners. No credit to anyone else. My brother had stolen my complete business plan and launched it himself, then had the audacity to plaster his face all over the website as the sole visionary behind it all. I sat at my desk staring at that screenshot for, I don't know how long, maybe 20 minutes, maybe an hour. Time kind of stopped mattering as my brain processed the sheer magnitude of the betrayal. This wasn't just stealing my girlfriend. This wasn't just a rash mistake or a moment of weakness. This was premeditated theft. This was taking months of my work, my research, my expertise, and claiming it as his own. The worst part? He'd had the business plan the whole time. All those weeks when he was being distant and vague, he wasn't getting cold feet. He was planning to launch without me. Every text where he said he was working on some stuff, he was literally working on my stuff, figuring out how to execute my plan without cutting me in. I sat at my desk staring at that screenshot for I don't know how long. The audacity of it was almost impressive. He didn't even try to hide it, didn't change the name, didn't modify the concept, just took everything I'd shared with him in confidence and used it for himself. I did some digging, started with the obvious, their website. Professional looking at first glance, I'll give him that. Clean layout, decent color scheme, professional stock photography of happy families enjoying vacation homes. But the more I looked, the more cracks appeared in the facade. The copy had typos, not just one or two, like someone had written it at 2 a.m. and never bothered to proofread. Experience instead of experience. Accommodations instead of accommodation. Basic stuff that any halfway competent business owner would catch. The photo gallery was entirely stock images. None of them even showed properties in our region. One photo was clearly of a beachfront property with palm trees. We don't have palm trees anywhere near here. We have pine forests and mountain lakes. Did he really think no one would notice? The pricing structure was there, but some of the details didn't make sense. Like he'd copied my framework without understanding the reasoning behind it. My bronze tier was designed for owners who just needed listing optimization and guest screening. Cameron's bronze tier promised all that plus professional photography and cleaning coordination for the same price point I'd calculated just for the basics. The numbers didn't work. Either he was dramatically undercharging and would lose money on every client, or he was planning to cut corners somewhere that would hurt service quality. I clicked through to their About Us page. There was Cameron in a professional headshot that was clearly from his college graduation, because I recognized the background, talking about his passion for hospitality and his years of experience in property management. Years of experience. The dude had never worked in hospitality for a single day. His longest job had been 3 months at a car dealership where he quit because his boss didn't respect his ideas. The testimonial section was the cherry on top of this disaster Sunday. 3 glowing reviews, all posted within days of each other, all suspiciously vague and generic. Keystone changed my life. Best property management company ever. Highly recommend. No specific details. No mentions of actual services rendered. Just the kind of fake reviews you write when you're desperate to look legitimate. Then I found his social media. The Keystone Instagram account had been created in early June, right after Memorial Day weekend, right after I caught him with Alexis. The timing wasn't coincidental. He'd been planning this for weeks, maybe longer. Every post was try-hard corporate inspirational garbage. Photos of sunrises with quotes about chasing dreams and building empires. Behind-the-scenes shots of Cameron at a desk with a laptop, looking thoughtful and entrepreneurial. The comments were turned off, probably because he knew he couldn't handle the criticism he deserved. And there she was, Alexis, in multiple photos on his personal Instagram. The caption on one from early June said, "Celebrating new beginnings with my partner in crime." They had a champagne bottle in the photo. The comments were full of friends congratulating them on the new venture. People who had no idea what they'd done to me. People who thought this was a cute couple starting a business together. The betrayal had layers. Another photo from late June showed them at what looked like a networking event. Cameron was wearing an ill-fitting suit he'd probably borrowed, and Alexis was dressed up, playing the supportive girlfriend role. The caption talked about growing our vision and connecting with the community. My vision. My community of contacts that I'd spent a decade building relationships with. They weren't even trying to be subtle. They'd destroyed my relationship, stolen my business plan, and were now publicly celebrating it, like they'd accomplished something worth celebrating. The confidence it took to be that shameless was almost impressive. Almost. My first instinct was rage. White hot, see red, want to break things rage. I wanted to call him, scream at him, threaten legal action. I drafted about 15 different texts telling him exactly what I thought of him and his pathetic attempt at entrepreneurship. I looked up intellectual property lawyers. I considered posting my own version of what really happened on social media, exposing them both. But then I took a breath and actually thought it through. What would any of that accomplish? A lawsuit would be expensive, time-consuming, and messy. Public call-outs on social media would make me look bitter and vindictive. Screaming at Cameron would give him the satisfaction of knowing he'd gotten under my skin. Then I realized something that made me smile for the first time in weeks. He had no idea what he was doing. Like, fundamentally, at a basic operational level, Cameron was completely unqualified to run a property management company. See, my business plan wasn't just a document full of good ideas. It was the culmination of 10 years of hospitality experience. Every system I'd outlined, every process I'd detailed, every contingency plan I'd included, all of that came from actually living through the scenarios. I knew how to handle a burst pipe at 3 a.m. because I'd done it a dozen times. I knew how to smooth over an angry guest who found their rental dirty because I'd mastered that conversation through years of practice. I knew which contractors were reliable and which would ghost you during peak season because I'd worked with all of them personally. Cameron had the blueprint, but he didn't have the foundation of knowledge that made the blueprint work. He'd stolen the recipe, but he didn't know how to cook. And in the hospitality industry, that kind of inexperience doesn't just mean bad reviews. It means catastrophic operational failures that compound on each other until the whole operation collapses. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to interfere. I wasn't going to sabotage him. I wasn't going to send angry messages or warn his clients or post negative reviews. I was just going to wait and watch him fail. Because he would fail. It was inevitable. And honestly, watching his incompetence destroy the business he stole from me would be more satisfying than anything I could actively do to him. And I was absolutely right. The first cracks appeared in August. I joined a local property management Facebook group just to keep tabs on the industry chatter, using a throwaway account so no one would connect it to me. Someone posted asking if anyone had experience with Keystone. The responses were not kind. One property owner wrote a detailed post about how Keystone had promised 24-hour emergency response, but took 2 full days to address a broken refrigerator during a guest's week-long stay. The guests had to throw away all their groceries, and the owner ended up comping the entire rental just to avoid a nightmare review. When the owner complained to Cameron, apparently his response was to blame the contractor for being slow. Never mind that any competent property manager has backup contractors for exactly this reason. Another owner complained about the professional photography they'd paid extra for. According to her post, someone showed up with a smartphone, took about 15 photos in less than 20 minutes, didn't move any furniture or stage anything, didn't even open the blinds to let in natural light. The resulting photos were dark, poorly composed, and made her renovated cabin look like a dingy basement apartment. When she asked for a reshoot, she was told there would be an additional fee because the first shoot had already been completed per contract. A third complaint detailed a double booking nightmare. Somehow Keystone had listed the same property on both Airbnb and VRBO without syncing the calendars. 2 different families showed up on the same Saturday expecting to check into the same house. One family had driven 6 hours with kids in the car. The other had flown in from out of state. Cameron's solution? He told both families to work it out between themselves, or he could try to find them alternative accommodations, but couldn't guarantee anything. The owner ended up having to personally handle the situation, refund both bookings, and pay out of pocket to put one family up in a hotel for the weekend. These weren't just minor hiccups. These were fundamental operational failures That would never happen if someone with actual hospitality experience was running things. I dealt with every one of these scenarios during my career. They all had straightforward solutions that came from knowing the industry. But Cameron didn't know the industry. He just knew how to copy someone else's business plan. September brought more drama. By this point, the Facebook group had multiple threads about Keystone's failures. Someone created a running joke about Keystone Moments, sharing their latest disaster story about the company. The stories got progressively worse. Missed maintenance issues that turned into expensive emergencies, poor communication leaving guests locked out of properties, listings with so many inaccurate details that guests were threatening legal action. My personal favorite was the story about a family who booked what was advertised as a luxury lakefront retreat with modern amenities. What they got was a property where half the light bulbs were burned out, the Wi-Fi password was wrong, the hot water heater was broken, and the lakefront view was technically accurate, but required walking through a marshy area and climbing over a small hill. The listing photos had been taken from creative angles that made it look like the lake was right outside the back door. The family posted their photos versus the listing photos online. It went semi-viral in local social media groups. Cameron tried damage control by offering them a partial refund and claiming it was an honest mistake with the photos. But the damage was done. Screenshots of the comparison got shared hundreds of times. People started calling Keystone the expectation versus reality company. By October, the negative reviews were piling up on Google and Yelp. Cameron tried to respond to each one with corporate speak about taking feedback seriously and implementing improvements. But you could tell he was drowning. The complaints kept coming. Some owners were demanding refunds. Others were just warning people away from the service entirely. I didn't leave reviews, didn't spread rumors, didn't have to. Cameron was doing all the damage himself by being fundamentally unqualified to run a hospitality business. November was when things really fell apart. A friend who works in commercial real estate told me Keystone's office space, yeah, Cameron had rented actual office space, was empty. Just totally cleared out. I checked their website and social media. Both dead. Last post was in early November saying they were restructuring for the new year. Restructuring. Sure, Cameron. That's what we call shutting down a failed business now. He'd lasted 6 months. 6 months of burning through whatever startup money he'd scraped together, destroying his reputation in the industry, and proving exactly why you don't steal someone else's carefully researched business plan if you have no idea how to execute it. I should have felt vindicated, and I did. A little. But mostly I just felt tired. Tired of being angry. Tired of thinking about the betrayal. I wanted to move forward with my life, not stay stuck in this loop of bitterness. So in December, I decided to do what I should have done back in May. I launched Keystone Vacation Management, the real version, my version. I'd spent the last 6 months watching Cameron make every mistake I knew to avoid. I'd seen exactly what not to do. Now I knew I could do it right. I registered a new LLC, built a professional website, invested in proper photography equipment and training. Most importantly, I used my decade of connections in the hospitality industry to secure my first 5 clients before I even officially launched. My approach was different from Cameron's failed attempt in every way that mattered. I started small and focused on quality over quantity. Each property got a customized service plan based on the owner's actual needs. I invested in professional photography because I knew how crucial first impressions were. I built relationships with local maintenance contractors I'd worked with for years. I created detailed standard operating procedures for every scenario because I'd lived through every scenario in my years at the resort. By the end of December, I had 8 properties under management. By mid-January, I had 15. Word of mouth in the property owner community spread fast, especially after Cameron's spectacular failure had left a lot of people looking for competent alternatives. Every client I brought on was someone who either had a horror story about Keystone's first failed iteration or knew someone who did. February brought my first big test. One of my properties had a pipe burst during a cold snap while guests were checked in. I got the call at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. I had a licensed plumber on site within 30 minutes, moved the guest to a comparable property I managed nearby at no extra charge, had the damage repaired within 48 hours, and gave the guests a partial refund for the inconvenience. The kind of crisis management that comes from years of experience dealing with operational emergencies. The owner was so impressed she referred 3 of her friends who also owned vacation rentals. By the end of February, I was managing 22 properties and had to hire my first employee, a part-time administrative assistant to help with scheduling and guest communication. March is when things got interesting. I was at my desk one evening, reviewing the monthly financials because Keystone had officially become profitable in month 3, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Jake, it's Cameron. I should have hung up immediately, but curiosity got the better of me. I hadn't spoken to him in 10 months, hadn't seen him since Memorial Day, hadn't acknowledged his existence beyond the vague awareness that we were technically related. What do you want? My voice was flat, emotionless. I need to talk to you. Can we meet somewhere? No? Please, just hear me out. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I need your help. The absolute audacity. You need my help? You stole my girlfriend and my business idea, launched it without me, crashed it in 6 months, and now you need my help? I made mistakes. I know that. I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. I wasn't thinking clearly. Things with Alexis just happened, and the business thing was stupid, and I should have included you, and things with Alexis didn't just happen. You made a choice. You made multiple choices, and stealing my business wasn't a mistake. It was calculated theft. I know. You're right. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm in a really bad place right now. The business failed. I'm broke. I owe people money. My credit is trashed. And Alexis, he trailed off. I waited. The silence stretched. Alexis left me, he finally said. 2 weeks after we shut down Keystone. Said she couldn't be with someone who was such a failure. She's seeing some dentist she works with now. They're engaged. I laughed. Couldn't help it. The karma was just too perfect. So let me get this straight. You betrayed me, stole my business, failed miserably, lost all your money, and the girl you betrayed me for left you for someone else. And now you're calling me because... Why exactly? Because you're my brother. Because I need help getting back on my feet. Because I heard you launched Keystone, and it's actually working. And maybe you could give me a job, or let me buy back in, or... No. Jake, please. I'm desperate. I don't have anywhere else to turn. You made your choices, Cameron. Every single one of them. You chose to sleep with my girlfriend. You chose to steal my business. You chose to cut me out and launch it without me. Now you get to live with those choices. I'll do anything. I'll work for free. I'll be your assistant. I'll clean properties. Whatever you need. Just please help me. The thing about people who betray you is they always come back when they need something. They never come back to actually make amends. They come back because their other options ran out. Here's what's going to happen, I said, keeping my voice level. You're going to hang up this phone. You're going to figure out your own life. And you're never going to contact me again. We're not brothers anymore. That relationship died when you decided your girlfriend and her brother's business idea were worth more than your integrity. Jake, I'm serious, Cameron. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't show up at my place. We're done. Permanently. I hung up before he could respond, blocked the number, sat back in my chair and waited for the rush of satisfaction to hit. It didn't come. I just felt empty, but also free. Like cutting that final tie had released me from something I'd been carrying around for months. 2 weeks later, Alexis showed up at my office. Keystone had grown enough that I'd rented a small office suite in a professional building downtown. Nothing fancy, just a clean space where I could meet with clients and have a home base for operations. I was in the middle of a video call with a property owner when my assistant knocked on the door, looking uncomfortable. "There's someone here to see you," she whispered. "Says it's personal." I told her you were busy, but she won't leave. I wrapped up the call and told my assistant to send her in. Alexis walked through the door looking exactly the same as I remembered. Beautiful, put together, professional. She also looked nervous, which was new. "Hi, Jake. You have 5 minutes. Make it count." She sat down across from my desk, fidgeting with her purse strap. "I wanted to talk to you, to apologize properly, to explain." "There's nothing to explain. You cheated on me with my brother. Pretty straightforward." "It wasn't like that. It happened so fast. Cameron and I were texting about the business, and we started talking more and feelings developed and..." "Stop. I don't care about the timeline of your affair. What do you actually want?" She took a deep breath. "I heard Cameron called you, asked for help. News travels fast. He told me you said no, that you blocked him. I understand why you're angry with him, but Jake, he's really struggling. He needs help. This was unbelievable. And you're here to advocate for my brother? The same brother you left 2 months ago for another man? The same one you're not even with anymore? I know how it looks. But despite everything that happened between us, I still care about you both. I hate seeing him struggle. I thought maybe if I talked to you..." "Let me stop you right there. You don't get to care about me anymore. You gave up that right when you decided to sleep with Cameron. And you definitely don't get to show up at my place of business asking me to help him. Neither of you have any claim on my sympathy, my help, or my time. But he's your brother. Biology doesn't mean anything when someone proves they don't value the relationship. Cameron chose himself over me. You chose yourself over me. Now you both get to deal with the consequence without expecting me to fix it for you." Her eyes welled up with tears. The old me would have felt guilty, would have softened, would have at least pretended to consider what she was asking. The new me just felt tired of everyone expecting me to be the emotional caretaker for people who hurt me. I made a mistake, she said quietly. We both did. We hurt you and we're sorry. Doesn't that count for anything? You want credit for apologizing after you got everything you deserved? You left me for Cameron. Fine. He launched a business that failed. Fine. You left him for another guy. Fine. Those are all natural consequences of the choices you made. I'm not going to rescue either of you from the reality you created. What about forgiveness? What about second chances? Forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation. I can forgive you both for what you did, eventually, but that doesn't mean I owe you my help, my friendship, or my presence in your lives. You both burned that bridge to the ground. There's no rebuilding it. She stood up, realizing this wasn't going the way she'd hoped. I really am sorry, Jake. For all of it. I hope someday you can see that. Your apology is noted. My answer is still no. To whatever you were going to ask next, whatever favor you thought you could convince me to grant, the answer is no. Now please leave. I have actual work to do. She left without another word. I watched her walk out of my office, out of my building, and hopefully out of my life for good. My assistant appeared in the doorway looking concerned. You okay, boss? Yeah, I said, surprised to find it was true. I actually really am. The next few weeks were quiet. No calls from Cameron. No surprise visits from Alexis. No family members trying to mediate. Just me, running my business, building my life back up piece by piece. Keystone continued to grow. By April, I had 35 properties under management and had hired 2 more employees, a dedicated cleaning coordinator and a maintenance liaison. By May, I was looking at expanding into the neighboring county. The business I dreamed of building was actually happening, and it was succeeding because I knew what I was doing. My parents eventually asked about Cameron. I told them what happened. All of it. The girlfriend theft, the business betrayal, the complete lack of remorse until he needed something from me. My dad actually apologized, said he didn't realize how bad it had gotten. My mom took longer to come around, still stuck in that, but he's your brother mentality. But even she eventually admitted that what Cameron did was inexcusable. I didn't hate them anymore. Not Cameron, not Alexis. Hate requires too much energy, too much emotional investment. They were just people who made selfish choices and had to live with them. Their struggles weren't my responsibility. Their redemption wasn't my project. Sometimes people ask me if I regret not giving Cameron a second chance, if I wish I'd helped him when he asked. The answer is simple. No, not even a little bit. Cameron didn't want a second chance to make things right with me. He wanted a bailout from the consequences of his own actions. There's a massive difference. A real second chance would have started with him taking full accountability without expecting anything from me. It would have been him figuring out his own path forward, rebuilding his own life, and proving through consistent action over time that he'd actually changed. Instead, he called me because he was broke and desperate and saw me as a solution to problems he created for himself. That's not remorse. That's opportunism. Same with Alexis. She didn't show up to make amends. She showed up to recruit me into saving someone who helped destroy our relationship. Neither of them actually cared about the hurt they caused. They just cared about what I could do for them, now that their plans had fallen apart. The thing about revenge is that sometimes the best revenge is just living well. I didn't have to sabotage Cameron's business. He did that himself through sheer incompetence. I didn't have to wish bad things on Alexis. Her own choices led her exactly where she ended up. All I had to do was protect my peace, build my business the right way, and refuse to let their chaos back into my life. Today, Keystone Vacation Management is approaching its first anniversary under my leadership. We're managing 52 properties across 2 counties. I've got a team of 5 employees who are competent, reliable, and actually understand hospitality. We've got a waiting list of property owners who want to work with us. My calendar is fully booked 3 months out. The business I dreamed of building is exceeding my own expectations. And I did it without Cameron, without Alexis, without anyone who proved they didn't deserve to be part of my success. I'm not going to pretend I don't think about them sometimes. You don't just erase years of relationship overnight. But when I do think about them, it's not with anger or hurt anymore. It's more like thinking about a movie I watched once, something that happened, had an impact, and then ended. They're characters from a previous chapter of my life that's closed now. My parents want me to reconcile with Cameron eventually. They think family should stick together through anything. I disagree. Family is earned through loyalty and respect, not just shared DNA. Cameron stopped being my family when he chose to betray me in the worst possible way. Blood might be thicker than water, but trust is thicker than blood. As for Alexis, I heard through mutual acquaintances that she did marry that dentist. Good for her, I guess. I hope she's happy. I hope he never has to wonder if she's sleeping with his brother. I hope their relationship is everything ours wasn't. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel, and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.